Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Hey guys, welcome to A Feedback Loop. This is a podcast where we usually dig into the guts of an album. We talk about what we love, what we hate. Usually it's just what we love. We don't hate a lot of original music. That's what we normally do, but we are starting something new today. We're doing a little bit of a video episode, so I'm here with Jeremy De Freitas. Episode 19 was what we had you
That's
on
right.
for his album Crossed Off, which is fucking fantastic. And we're going to chat a bit about what's going on with that with him, and we're going to hear some tunes. So let's get into it. I'm Jeff.
I'm Jeremy.
And you're in a feedback loop.
You're in a feedback loop. You're in a feedback loop.
Really mixed feelings about?
Definitely a little weird.
You're saying you liked it.
That's it. You want the audience to actively engage.
I like stuff that makes me disgusted. Yeah.
Listen to
If I
it.
want your opinion, I'll give it to you.
You're in a feedback loop.
And we're back. Thanks for coming.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And thanks to Ali at the Grand Trunk. This is the lovely space that we got today, which is super rad, super cool, open every day. So come check it out. Always good tunes, always good drinks. We are drinking Sweetgrass today, which is not our sponsor, but who knows?
Soon.
Right? Soon. And yeah, man, how's life? What's new?
Things are good. Very recently I had actually made music my full-time gig. So
Nice.
it feels good to kind of jump off
That's
the cliff.
so hard.
And it is tough.
Yeah.
So right now I'm kind of in this position where I've had to jump off, and now I'm realizing, like, wow, my schedule isn't as nearly as full as I thought it was
Yes.
because you're working.
Yes.
And so now the whole goal is to take some time to really focus on the administrative side, which is getting good content that I can send to bars, to venues, start booking a lot more gigs.
Yeah.
The latest thing that I'm looking to do is the Via Rail onboard artist program.
Right.
So effectively you play music
On the tree?
on the train, and they'll give you a free trip to wherever
That's
you're
pretty
going,
cool.
which is pretty good. So it's a good way to kind of do some promotion, get some video content as well,
Yeah.
Get people into the album,
Yeah. And travel.
and then the travel. So that's once my destination is Vancouver.
Oh, cool.
Because I'd like to try out the Vancouver scene, see what the response is to
Yeah.
the music, and see if there's a bit more of a rock vibe there. And then once that's finished, I'm taking a bit of a hiatus from most of December because I'm going to Guyana to see my dad. So a lot of people
cool.
know that my family's actually from Guyana.
Oh, right on.
So I'll be spending the month of December there, and then January I'm looking to do some touring in the U.S. So part of my getting gigs now
Yeah.
is calling on U.S. venues,
Yeah.
because you have to call a U.S. venue to get confirmed for a date, and once you get confirmed for the date, that's what you can get you the visa to go play it. So you have to, it's kind of this weird
It's sort of
catch-22.
backwards,
Yeah.
yeah.
You need a visa to get the gigs, but you need a gig to get the visa.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see.
You sound busy, and I gotta say, like, one of the things I've probably given this label to about half the people we've had on the show, hardest working man in showbiz. Like, you look at your resume just as a person. You've been a personal trainer. You've been in sales,
Saw that, eh?
right? You've done, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, you talked about this with your album as well. There are so many flavors and genres going on in your music, and that's reflected in the type of guy you are. Like, you can just see that you're excited about so many different pursuits, it seems like. And your passion, when you put it in one direction, I mean, it shows. And it's
thank you.
great that you've gotten to a position where you can put aside some of those other pursuits and focus just on music, because it is like, it's a crazy full-time job, and people don't
It
totally
is.
get that sometimes, I feel like.
I think a lot of people. I mean, even a lot of times I'll meet bands and stuff like outside of the venue. We're gonna be on a bill together, and we always joke because we always say it's like, yeah, about 10% of the gig is playing music, but 90% is just lifting heavy shit towards getting to the venue. But aside from that, there's so much more to it. Like I like to consider it more of a sales job, because you're constantly calling on venues and calling back, following up, making sure that you're getting leads and opportunities and all the same stuff that you do in a regular sales job. The difference is that your product is you, right? So you have to be willing to sell yourself, you have to be willing to invest in your marketing, and willing to spend that time, that effort, making sure you have a polished product that people are going to want to buy at the end of the day. So that's kind of my little mantra as I look to pursue this more permanently.
That's something that I wish, I mean, for better or worse, that's the way the industry is. And I'm sure you know as well as most people, there are plenty of fantastic musicians working who just don't have that skill naturally. I'm one of them. I'm not great at figuring out how to promote myself and how to market myself. Even with the podcast, like, we're on Instagram, and sometimes I'm like, what the heck? We're a music podcast. What am I going to post about?
Exactly.
What am I going to take a picture of that's not just, doesn't feel like I'm being a fraud about it. But,
that for me is the hardest part too.
Right?
Like I find the one part that I struggle with, and maybe it's the same for other musicians, is posting on social media, because you keep thinking it's like, oh my god, you're just being like narcissistic and you're just promoting yourself. It's like, okay, we get it, you play guitar. And you know, the thing that we kind of struggle with, or maybe other musicians struggle with, is allowing people to have to accept that. Listen, this is my job. If you don't like it, it's just like any other post that you may not like. Just unfollow me, unsubscribe. But the reality is, this is a job. This is something I'm passionate about. And people do way worse things with people's like gym selfies, or you know, like Snapchat filters, and you're like, oh my god, enough of that. Well, this is somebody pursuing a dream, so hopefully they'll be understanding enough to want to take it seriously.
For sure, and I feel that way too. It's just the exhaustion of like, and especially if you're in this industry, you know a shit ton of other people in this industry. So you're seeing all these posts on Facebook and on your Instagram about other musicians, and it's easy to get defeated and be like, well, everybody in my world is doing this, so where's room for me? But then you got to think about the people who, your friends on Facebook who are not in that industry, they're not bothered by your stuff. My family is always hounding me to see more videos and pictures, and I'm like, really? I'm sure people are sick of me.
That's totally it.
I always have a perspective.
It totally is perspective, and it's funny because a lot of times when you're watching the content, you keep forgetting all the background stuff that happened to create the content. You're just like, oh, I just want to be entertained, and you forget that the person's being narcissistic. You don't think about that. You're just like, if it has good entertainment value, then you overlook all those things that seem like you're narcissistic and you're just shamelessly self-promoting. You prefer the music.
Yeah.
You know, that's the case.
And I think the idea, like you said, of shameless self-promotion, I wish we didn't have that term at all.
Yeah.
Because we live in a society where everybody needs to brand themselves in every capacity. Like even if you work in the bank, you still need to have a particular brand, and employers will look at that stuff more than they'll look at your resume sometimes. They want to see what kind of stuff you're posting on social media. And so there's this weird shift where, I mean, maybe we're the lucky ones because we came into it knowing, okay, I can't post that selfie where I'm getting wasted or whatever. It has to look like I'm having fun, but not too much fun.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of ingrained to be that way. But, I mean, and for someone like me, I'm still starting out putting my own stuff together, and I'm always nervous that I'm doing it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because there's no boss above you giving you a report card telling you how you've done it.
Exactly.
You have to kind of take the cue from the people you know and learn what to do and what not to do from them.
Absolutely. I think the other thing, too, is, you know, it's when we say self-promotion, it's because who else is going to do it for you, right?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, if I had a record label, you know, and kind of the sad part is that right now a lot of artists are getting screwed by record labels, because if they sign on, great, you get the limelight for however long, they'll get you on bills, but the reality is they take a lot of your earnings, even if you've written some of the material. I think that's a great way to make money as well, as if you're writing, you can collect some of those royalties. But outside of that, a lot of these guys will get really screwed by the record label, so I'm trying to almost avoid that, or if I were to get in that situation, I would be kind of very selective about what kind of arrangement they wanted to offer. Because the reality is, I think a lot of the stuff that they can offer you, not all of it, a lot of the stuff they can offer you can do yourself if you just kind of do a little bit of research and find out how to do it.
And sometimes a lot of research. Like, I mean, I have friends who are working on records, and they would love to be able to put $1 grand into every song on that record and do the whole thing the right way. But there's the problem, there is no right way anymore, or wrong way. You can teach yourself how to do that and put that together, and it's going to take more time, which might affect how you make money, because now you're working on this instead of your day job, as it were.
Exactly.
But you're going to have a product that you might have more invested in and not have had to spend so much money.
Exactly.
You know, and I mean, that's one thing about your record. It's very polished. It's very well produced. And, you know, like, I got to ask, like, how much of that was you being a smart strategist and choosing the right people to work with?
It was, funnily enough, it was Greg Keys. He was the lead guitar player of a band called Everest. He's a huge musician here in Toronto. I think he plays with, you know, some of the really big bands here. Plays with a lot of great country artists out west, does a lot of touring in Canada. And he was the one to produce the album. A lot of the lead work is all him. In fact, most of it is. I actually happened to take advantage of some of his network, so I got his cello player, I got his drummer that he's played with before, so I've managed to bring them all together, and then I had, you know, Joel Pearl, also another great bassist that plays all around the city, a bunch of bands as well, so I had him on the album as well. So, so altogether it's been a pretty fun ride. It's just, now it's funny because you're in the studio. It took us 15 months to record it. When we thought it was going to be 4 months to record it, I never would have imagined. But then even once you've done that, you you realize that that's chapter 1. The next part is making sure people like it and getting people to hear it and going performing shows. So it's an interesting process to see once you're kind of both feet deep, because I've always been kind of just dabbling, less than a profession, more than a hobby kind of thing. But now that it's a profession, you get to see a lot more of what it takes to be a real musician. So.
Well, and that's something I want to ask you about, because before I had even heard the record, and before I'd even met you, I had heard that it was called Crossed Off. And my first instinct, which now my opinion has definitely changed, but my first thought was, because I'm sure you've been, I don't know if this has happened to you or if you've heard anybody say this to you, but my thought was, who's this guy who is dabbling in music and is saying that, and I hadn't heard the story of what it meant to you, and obviously I hadn't met you yet, but in my mind the first thing I thought, and I'm sorry about this, was like, what kind of a jackass to say, oh, I gotta just cross it off my bucket list.
Oh,
and I was sort of looking at it like, I've known so
that's
many
fair,
musicians,
no, I could see.
But this is the thing, is that was very ignorant of me to have that instinct, but you know what I mean, I'm not gonna censor myself about it.
No, that's fine.
And after hearing it and realizing that you were, I mean, you had every right to put together that record and to call it whatever you wanted. So I'm sorry, because I had that impression at first, and I remember thinking, I hope that he doesn't get that, because I had a ton of other musician friends who immediately thought that as well, and I was like, guys, we're on the same team.
Got it.
I didn't want, I've met people who hear things like that and say, oh, come on, like you're gonna put all this money into this thing. It's not that easy for everybody else to put the money and the work together to put together a record. So it felt like, and it's funny because I feel like no one really has the right to claim that it's a slap in the face for you to do whatever you want to do with your career. And I mean, even if it was a shit record, you can still do whatever you want. But it's funny to hear how people perceive their competition. And I think because you're a strong salesman, that might have, like, because you're very good at marketing yourself and that's an inherent skill for you, it's certainly a point of jealousy. You have to apologize for that.
No. I always, good or bad, I always appreciate like candid feedback about what it is, because I don't think anyone gets to where they are by people saying, oh yeah, it's great, it's great all the time. So I mean, because I mean, the end goal was to say, it was crossed off so that it was really something more for me versus like, oh, it's not crossed off somebody else like having to hear it. It's, you know, it's my bucket list to create the album. But that's not to say if it went somewhere and people really enjoy the music, like I'm still writing and stuff all the time. I'm still, as part of the content that I want to release is some maybe like new, just video-based recordings of new songs, just so people have a flavor of what I'm working on.
And I'm so glad that that's not where it ended. It wasn't just a bucket list check off and you're like, I can go back to the gym or whatever.
I don't think it'll ever be fully crossed off and then I'm done with music. It'll always all be playing, but like in terms of getting a formalized record acts as kind of a benchmark as how seriously you take it. At least for me. So I said, you know what, listen, when I'm 50, I'd like to have a little catalog of something that said this was me at one point in my life, and I took the drive, determination, whatever it took to get the album finished, especially when it took 15 months.
That's crazy.
It was one of the longest things ever that I did. It was one of the more challenging, but one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. So that's why it felt good. So because now it's actually crossed off. It's done. It's on my I guess like I said, my bucket list, and now it's.
And the pressure's kind of off. Like now you can keep playing the tunes, writing new stuff. That's another thing I'm always curious about. So this was your first like full release. Did you put anything out really before that? That was like or was it kind of just tastes of stuff?
It was a lot of taste tester kind of stuff. The B-side on it is called Placebo Love, and that was something I played with Alex Scott, my other drummer. Greg recorded that as well, and we just had this one-off of just a single. It was like a rock tune. That's why you'll hear it's very off-brand from the rest of the songs. But I felt it was still a good song. I didn't want to like add like a filler, but I wanted something to show people like this is kind of a bit of a homage to the rock side of me. And so one of the ideas I'm playing with is that a lot of the album is, funnily enough, I mean, we put some money into it, but budgets are not limitless.
For sure.
The reason why it's acoustic is half because of cost.
So
even if somebody comes to see us, us play acoustic, that's great. But then we could say, maybe label their next performance, and this can be more of an electric kind of a rock out version. So if you heard one, come and see the other. It gives people a reason to come out twice. So that would be kind of
that's very smart. Take note,
the strategy.
This is quite a good lesson in how to run your business as a musician.
It's all a theory. It's all a work in progress.
Maybe I won't even put this up. It's just for me to study. Take notes on it afterwards.
Perfect.
But no, that's really cool. And you said you're writing new stuff.
I'm writing some new stuff as well. It's got. I always like to keep a bit of poppiness. I don't think.
Okay.
I was having this conversation the other day that is something that is not authentic, right? So you hear a lot of like formulaic pop and all that stuff. Is that all bad? And I had a little epiphany the other day that it's akin to food. It's like, well, is KD and hot dogs considered like Tuscan Italian cuisine?
For sure.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But on the right day, it's great, right?
Exactly.
So even that, this garbage junk food, it's still great on, your rainy day.
There's a reason why it's successful.
Exactly.
It's okay to like things that other people like.
Exactly. And so sometimes even when I'm listening like to pop music, I'm like, damn it, their formula worked. And and you're not mad about it. You just sit there and somewhat begrudgingly enjoy the song, but you still like it. So I always don't mind having a little touch element of pop. So some of the stuff that I'm doing now has a little bit more of a pop element. Mainly for the one thing that drives is singability. People just want to be able to sing along.
Sure.
They feel more part of that experience. Come to the show. Maybe they don't know all the lyrics, but they can hum it out, and they feel like it's part of it. Instead of just watching some guy on stage having a great time, you want to be part of that.
Yeah.
So that's why you've probably heard of the millennial whoop. It's so big.
No.
It's just the idea that a lot of modern songs now have like a hey oh hey oh, hey.
Yes.
And because there's no lyric, you can just sing along to that and feel like part of this community.
Sure.
So
generally that puts me off.
me too.
But that's the thing. We talk about authenticity. Sometimes you can really tell when it feels like manufactured, and other times you can hear when it there's a great song by Shaky Graves. Called Dearly Departed. That a good friend of mine played for me, and normally her music tastes I'm like half and half. Most of it I'm like, I don't know, I like her for that. And it has a moment of like just sort of a woo woo moment that's very catchy, very easy. And right away I was like, I'm gonna hate this. But that's just me being me. And I really got into it, and I was like, okay, I can see how getting drunk in a group of people, at a rock and roll bar would make me love this tune, but I also could see not wanting to just listen to it on the radio necessarily, or listen to it at work or whatever I might do. So the function of music is important too, and that's something that I love about your record is that, like you just said, there's this singability to it, it's catchy, there's hooks and stuff, but there's enough substance beneath it that if you're just listening on the bus on your way to work or something, you're picking up like relatable emotional lyrics, and you're picking out interesting guitar stuff and interesting rhythm stuff, and there's more. It's almost like when you watch a great kids film like Shrek that has jokes for the adults. There's something for everybody.
Oh, that's great. I like that.
I like that a lot. Which is very hard to do. So
great.
I want to know your
Thank
secrets on that. But
my secrets for
how you write something. When you write a song, do you approach it with, like you said, first the kind of pop, let's get people on board, and then let's put the message under? Or does it come from words first or music? Like, is there kind of a formula for you?
So I guess a lot of it comes from, if anybody's come to any of my shows, they know I'm a big fan of 90s, and I always found 90s was really good. It always had those catchy kind of choruses. So I think I was actually inspired by a lot of that stuff. So that's why when I'm writing, you'll hear a lot of 90s in it. I can't deny it.
Sure.
But that's kind of what I was brought up, and that's what I love to play. And so when I actually write a song, it usually starts off with like a couple chords that I like or sound cool or interesting, and then you kind of draw just like a little line in space that's like la da 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 da, and then so that kind of holds as platforms for the notes or sort of the lyrics that you get later on. So just acts as a placeholder to get you where you need to be. But then after that, that's when you have to kind of dig deep and say, all right, this is kind of the melody. And sometimes while you're singing the melody, it'll be like, for some reason the way A sounds good. So maybe that cues you to the words will be like, and now we'll be so far away, and that will act as kind of that placeholder that you build the lyrics around. And then somehow, it ends up taking on this meaning, and you kind of follow that meaning. It's not necessarily you write a song with a specific meaning in mind, but that has happened before as well. It just depends on the song.
For sure. Yeah, that's something that I'm always excited by, is like kind of demystifying the process of writing a song. Because even for
me too. It's real. I love seeing how other people write.
Right, and it's crazy when you're working on something that's inspired by like one idea or a person you saw that you imagined their entire world and story around this one thing, and you're making it up. That's the thing that boggles my mind about music, is like a lot of stuff that works into the mainstream works because it's relatable, it's a thought and a feeling that everybody has. But I'm always excited by stuff that it's a made up story. Like you've created, if it's not a personal, just autobiographical situation. Like we talked about the band Pup on our last episode. and they're getting huge now, which is so fantastic. Like
Okay.
they're kind of punk. They're very hard rock punk, but they're bringing so much more into the genre. And one of the things that happened was someone made a comment about a song they wrote called Pine Point, and some person on the internet sort of tried to establish, well, he's from Pine Point, so yada yada yada, which is not true. They drove through the town and wrote a song about the experience of maybe a thing that could have happened there.
Oh, but it wasn't
But
actually based on any facts.
Right.
Like, okay.
It's just that some songwriters have an imagination greater than their world. And then there are other songwriters, which I don't know if this is true of you or not, but I get the sense from your music that a lot of it is much more personally centered. Is that true, or do you kind of...
Some of it is, some of it's not. Some of it's about friends and their experiences, because I think you can only tap into so much of your own self, and after a while that does get kind of boring.
Sure.
It's like, oh great, you're sad about this thing, great, you're happy about this thing, or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, and Sting is one of my other main influences, and
cool.
there was this interview with him where he talked about, you know, it's your job as a musician to be able to interpret, you know, another lifestyle, another character's way of feeling as best as you can, because he has this one song that's about like a transvestite prostitute or something like that. He's like, you know, obviously as much as I'm unfamiliar with that character,
For sure.
my job is to try and interpret that as accurately as I possibly can and create a story out of it. And I thought that for me was a big turning point. I'm like, what a great way to, as a concept, to start a song, or at least an idea, so that way you can start a song and maybe finish it like that, either as a story or as something with your own life, or something that you tell the audience as a bit of like advice, I guess.
Yep.
A lot of music is just kind of sharing advice, whether it's good advice or bad advice, I don't know.
That's very true.
But it's at least ideas.
It's very interesting when you say that music is advice. I definitely feel like I fall into that category when I write songs. I'm like, it's a little righteous. It's like, here's what I think you should do, or here's how you know.
Sure.
But maybe that's why I don't really enjoy certain genres like punk, because punk tends to be a lot less focused on like, here's the solution, here's what I think you should do, and it's a lot more like, let's celebrate the anger we're feeling and explore it and let it be explosive and stuff. So maybe that's why people like pop more, or that pop becomes more mainstream.
It's funny you say that, because I always had this theory. Like, I remember when I was back in grade school, and a friend of mine introduced me to Deftones and like heavy music. Sure. And at the time, I don't know why, but I had that stigma in my head. I'm like, oh, you know, only bad kids, or you know, listen to metal and all that stuff.
Sure.
And then obviously I got huge into it. I love Deftones, one of my favorite bands. Incubus, like just even like the really heavy stuff too. Yeah. But I realized, like, after a long time, I'm like, wow, metal is the result of somebody doing something positive with their aggression.
Yes.
That, for me, I thought was like a big turning point. I'm like, you don't understand. No, they're doing the thing that's good, which is put into music and something positive versus, you know, violence or whatever. Yeah. So that, for me, was a big turning point, is as to the function of music. Like you talked about.
That's very cool.
So.
And that, I think that speaks to your style as a musician too, because you can hear, like especially on Listening to Love, you can hear the evidence of that, metal influence, but then you also get, like, I mean, you have some really more vulnerable, softer things happening on other parts of the record. Yep. Is there, what's next after Crossed Off? You said you've been writing new stuff. Is there kind of a cohesive idea yet, or are you kind of letting it come to you?
I'm kind of letting it come to me. I mean, I do like the idea of taking little seasonings from other genres and putting it on that one main theme. So whether that's a little bit of country, a little bit of pop, whatever, that's okay. Like, I think people don't mind that variation as long as they feel some sort of relationship with that center core theme, whatever that is. And it's hard to identify. Maybe it's just the vocal, maybe it's just kind of some of the strumming patterns are very similar, or whatever it is. There's got to be some commonality. But yeah, for me, I think right now it's just been casual. It hasn't been like, okay, I've got to finish this album by December. Sure. It's just, you know, I want to play, I have fun, and you know, write a few songs in the process. So.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to imagine, like you just said, having a through line, and sometimes you don't know what it is. Until you can.
Through line, that's a good way to put it. Yes, that's right.
And I think that in your case, I feel like your vocal style is recognizable enough that luckily, or maybe it was on purpose, that you've developed it this way. But you could play, like you said, you could do kind of country things and heavier things, and there's a nice constant. Because I think one problem with a lot of people have with certain musicians is they get to their second or third record and they lose an element of what was strong in the first thing. Sure. And sometimes it's because you just want to do something new.
Sure.
And I I mean, I've written so many R&B songs, but they just don't suit my voice. They don't, like, when you talk about branding, it wouldn't be on brand for me to be a hip hop artist. It just doesn't make sense.
You never know.
Like it's one of those things that
Never
I'd
say
love
never.
to work for other people who could make the best with it. But there's a reason why plays are not always directed by the person in them and vice versa, right? Like,
Sure, fair enough. Yeah.
and it's the same thing with comedians. I find, like you just said, some comedians will make, like Mitch Hedberg was famous for the one-liner thing.
Yeah.
He's the only guy who can do those.
Right.
For whatever reason, no one can really
His
cut the finger on
delivery
it.
is
The
what's-
delivery is
yeah.
the key. You can't just read somebody's jokes off a page and be like, these are fantastic.
Right.
But there are some comics who you can. And there
Absolutely.
are some songs, lots of Beatles songs come to mind, that can translate to anybody else's voice
Sure.
and have a new meaning.
Like some different interpretation.
And then
yeah.
there are songs you just shouldn't really cover, or they don't make sense. Or there's like 9 Inch Nails when Johnny Cash didn't
covered
hurt.
it. Yeah, that's right.
And Trent Reznor was like, I feel like he went back in time and wrote that song
yeah.
for me. Like, it doesn't make sense that when I hear it, I think it's
Yep.
Johnny Cash's song.
Yep.
That's such a strange idea to me.
I always thought that was funny because when I had actually I had heard the Johnny Cash version first,
Yeah, a lot of people
and I
did.
thought it was 9 Inch Nails covered it, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool interpretation.
A lot of people did because of the
So,
timing there.
The timing was weird.
Yeah.
But you made a good point earlier about, like, it's weird when somebody wants to change from their first album to the second one.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're always cursed because if you
Mhm.
change too much, they'll be like, wow, they sold out. I wish they did their old stuff.
Yeah.
And if you keep kind of similar to your old stuff, sometimes people are like, oh man, it's the same old stuff, the same old formula.
Yeah.
We want to hear something new.
You can't please everybody.
So you can't even, But I think that for me, it always comes back to authenticity. Usually, people are very sensitive to the authenticity behind something.
Yeah.
And that's not to say most formulaic pop cannot be authentic because they're not trying to lie to you. It's just, it's very obvious of what we're trying to have that loop in there. We're going to have those, those backbeats that are all pre-programmed.
Yep.
But if I'm not trying to sell it as this, this big soul-searching kind of song, then that's still pretty authentic as far as I'm concerned. You still want to dance to it at a club.
Yep.
The difference is one is for dancing at a club, the other one's for when you're eating your KD and your sausages after a breakup, right?
Exactly.
So there are different purposes behind the music.
It's funny to think about, like you just said, the function of music and when it's right for this thing. Because sometimes you'll love a record because you just went through a breakup.
Yeah.
And like Ryan Adams released a new record not too long ago, and I thought I'd love the shit out of it because I love all the stuff. But I'm in a happy relationship right now,
Yeah, exactly.
so I'm like,
That's right.
buddy, I'm so sorry that you're feeling this
But
way,
it's
but I'm
not
not
quite
there with you.
relatable. Absolutely.
And, it's just one of those things. Maybe next time he goes on tour and he's gone for 10 days, then I'll be like, I see what you mean.
Yeah,
pal.
exactly.
But that's one thing I wonder about too. I don't know if this has happened to you before, but do you feel like there are times and emotions in your life where you write more because, you've written some really good, happy, positive, like love song stuff. That's an area for whatever reason I have a really hard time with as a musician, like as a writer myself. And I've never been good at kind of capturing that and finding, like you said, the authenticity there.
Sure.
I can convey authentic emotions that are on the negative side
Sure.
much better. Do you find that you have a preference, or there's like times in your life where you're writing a lot of heavy, dark stuff versus the lighter stuff, or?
That's a good. I actually, if I were to kind of look back and be like, well, I wrote this song at this time and I wrote this song this time, I don't know if I could weave together a consistent theory as to what leads to what kind of songwriting.
Cool.
But I would say, and maybe it's just the nature of the day, which is I start writing, I start tinkering around late at night, like 10ish, 11ish,
Sure.
because that's when everything else is gone, most distractions are gone, unless it's the weekend or whatever, maybe you're going out. But that's when there's a bit of stillness. I can go around, just goof around with my guitar, and it's nice to just goof around. Like, that's where it all starts. Or a lot of times you're just rehearsing, which is not the same as goofing around.
Exactly.
Like, that it requires so much goofing around to find out, okay, you know what, maybe I like that, I'll latch onto this, sing a couple melodies. Even if you're just doing vocal drills, sometimes you'll do vocal drills using a line that you thought of in here. Maybe it was challenging, it had an interesting little trill to it. So a lot of the times it just starts from goofing around, and then it does follow. For me, a lot of the stuff is like the major minor. If it's major, it's happy. If it's minor, it's sad. So it just depends on what I start goofing around with. So.
Nice. That's very cool.
Pretty random, yeah.
Now I want to find out, so when you tell me about how you've been doing this full time and you're not as busy, that shocks me only because I feel like from, everything that I've heard about what it's like to be a working musician right now, it seems like everybody's always on the go and always has another, promo vid they have to put up or meeting they have to book, whatever. So what the heck was your life like before? if
It's-
now you have more free time.
Well, so here's kind of what happened is like
Yeah.
when I quit my job, I had a few gigs or whatever, but then I
Yeah.
didn't really realize how empty my schedule was until you jump off the cliff, right?
Sure.
So now what I'm doing is I'm trying to use this downtime to get myself that uptime, which
Sure.
is the downtime now is time to really equip yourself with all the things that the venue or that a
Yeah.
bill or another musician that wants to put you on the bill or a promoter or an agent or any of these people that are involved in getting you that paycheck and that gig
Yeah.
will need. So one is, in my former life I used to be in enterprise software sales, and one of the things that we learned from it is that content is king. So the better your content, the more people are going to be responding to it. So if you are, and I absolutely have work to do on this. So stuff like the 15-second covers and stuff like that. Like I need to start
Sure.
doing more of that for sure,
Sure.
And being more consistent. But kind of that's what the whole point of some of this downtime is. It's not really downtime per se. It should be
No.
time spent. Are you building a lead list of the next bars you're going to call?
Yeah.
Are you messaging that photographer, confirming the time and the place that you're going to have that photo shoot,
Yeah.
so that way you can add those photos to the website to make the website look really good. And then did you update the calendar with all of your gigs that are coming up, or do you have yourself an EPK with your samples, covers, originals? Do you have just the vocal samples? Do you have backing tracks that you need to get done? Do you have to do your taxes? Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
administrative
Yeah.
components to
For
music
sure.
that I I knew about, but I hadn't really appreciated until I was sunk into it.
For sure.
So now I start to kind of see a little bit more. It's very much a learning experience for me too. So.
Well, and that's one of the biggest obstacles you're facing is like we just said. It's not like at your last job where here's the job description, here's the
Yeah.
boss you report to,
Yep.
here's someone who can pat you on
It's
the back
not
and
laid
say,
out
"Do
for you,
good,"
that's
or
right.
come to you and go, you should have done this better. The only way how many times have you had an interview or a thing set up or a gig or whatever,
Yeah.
and you don't get to do a gig there again, and it's not like they made the time to call you and go, here's what we think you could have done better, we went in a different
Right.
direction for this way. They don't give a shit. So how do you know when sometimes you have to just go, okay, I don't play gigs there anymore and I have no control over that. It's like being an actor.
Sure.
There's the audition process, sometimes they just didn't need you that day. Or
The-
you look too much like so and so's brother, so they didn't hire you. Like there's all these factors
there's
you can't
small
control.
things that people.
Yeah.
But I always say there's two different audiences. Like so, forget about originals. There's
Yeah.
going to be your bars, and then there's weddings and corporate events.
Yep.
And so I know those are broad, but those can encapsulate a lot of things.
Mhm.
A bar has got 1,000 other bars or bands that they're going to call to show up.
Sure.
They're all going to pay you the least they can possibly pay you, and that's because they're a business. They're not in the business of paying you more money just because you're better.
Right.
Unless you're selling drinks.
Unless you really negotiate or you do something
If you're
special.
selling drinks, that's why I really agree and I understand that idea behind a portion of the bar.
Yes.
Because if you don't have any skin in the game, why should I pay you money? You're going to show up, take $200 and maybe bring 4 people.
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Yeah.
For me, it's more about to your point about getting feedback and making sure you get the feedback. It's all about the weddings and the corporate events, because then you have a client, you're a contracted
Yeah.
performer for them, and there is some formality to that engagement.
For sure.
So they want to see, if it's a corporate event, they'll want to see an invoice. They're going to see what times you played, what your rate was. Quick tip: always put like a little option for tip on your invoices,
Yes.
just in case. So that way they think you're really
Yeah.
good, they'll add a tip.
Yeah.
And those are the ones where I really look for that feedback the most, because anything else would be subjective. If it was originals, they could be all subjective, and
Sure.
I'll talk to the sound guy. Maybe I'll
And
turn
every
it
bar and
off.
venue is going to have a different attitude on
Exactly.
what they're looking for. Yeah.
And they don't have time. A bar owner's worried about, do we have enough kegs? Are the bathrooms clean? Oh, what's
Yeah.
insurance? Did we get that thing fixed?
Are my
Is the
staff doing
whole-
coke in the bathroom?
All these things are all legitimate
Yeah.
concerns. So the last thing they care about is, oh, you know what? We got to make sure he feels good.
For sure.
That'll never happen.
Absolutely.
So for me, I look to weddings and corporate events because there's a little bit of post after that. Maybe they've given me a positive. I say, listen, thanks so much. Was it too loud? Blah blah blah. They say, no, it was great. I had a lot of people asking for your card and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That's where I get the feedback.
Yeah.
And also that's where you make more money because it's because unlike a bar has a budget that they want to spend the least amount on entertainment as possible.
Yeah.
And weddings and corporate events, they have a very set budget on what they think they would like to spend, and 99.999 times out of 10, it's much higher than what a bar would offer.
For sure. Not just that, but like you said, they're very clear on what they want. They have a particular
Correct.
vision in mind.
Yep.
They booked you because they saw particularly your other quick tip promo videos you're going to put together
Yep.
for corporate stuff are going to
Yep.
be different from bar stuff, right?
Absolutely. So yes and no. The vocal reel that I have right now, and so to that point, one of the things I'm working on now is a vocal reel that is effectively the same as my first vocal reel, but because the first one was more so I was auditioning for like bands. I didn't really think about using it for getting gigs,
Right.
but I used it for different bands because I was kind of not new to Toronto, but I had like this open time where I'm like, I might join a new project.
Yeah.
Here's what I can do. So I put together this video. It was like 10 minutes, 30 seconds of different songs and blah, blah, blah. And then it ended up having the secondary purpose of being something I could send to a venue
Sure.
or a wedding, whatever the case.
Sure.
But now, to your point, yeah, I would definitely like to set up like a vocal reel that's a little bit more about like, these are the songs that I do during a show. This is kind of the performance and expectations.
Yeah.
Another quick tip is if you're with like if you're setting like a wedding or a corporate event, ask them if there's any inside jokes that you should tell, or ask them if there's any strategic brand messaging that you want to have, or notes about like when does the bar close, are you having a draw, raffles. Get that information. One, because it makes you can make a joke out of it or be a bit more engaging as a performer.
Sure.
Second, it tells that venue or that person hiring you that you know what you're doing, that you've done this lots of times. So always ask about those little extra stocking stuffer
Very
details,
smart.
and you feel they'll rely on you more.
Stocking stuffer details
Yeah.
is that's sticking with me, because you're absolutely right. There are things that you learn in this business that are just little things like that that sometimes you don't know. There's really no collective place where you can learn that stuff. Everybody who's starting out is sort of having these conversations and kind of finding out, but it is a competitive business, so there aren't that many musicians who have the free time or the desire to sit down with a bunch of newbies and say, here's what I did that worked and here's what I did that didn't. That's what you do when you're retired and you have all the time in the world to, you know, so it's really cool that you were here today to talk to us.
Yeah, no problem, thank you.
What else is on the horizon for you? So I know you're doing more, you're planning more touring stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay,
That's
very
right.
cool.
So that's going to be the big thing, and then you know as that goes up. So what I was doing just before this, I worked for a company called Upshow, and this is kind of going to hopefully ramp back up my social media and all that stuff.
Sure.
Is that if you promote yourself, that's worth one like. Let's just say.
Yeah.
But if somebody else promotes you for you on your behalf without your any solicitation, then that equals 5 or 10 likes or whatever number you want to pick. It's just it holds a lot more weight online.
Got it.
So what it is effectively, it's if there's a projector or TV in the screen, it's going to prompt different guests to take that same picture that they were going to take on Instagram or Twitter, and if they upload it with my hashtag #JDPlaysMusic, they upload that picture with that hashtag, they'll actually appear on all those different TVs. So they get this, oh my gosh, I'm on TV moment, but for me, they just promoted the fact that they're at my show having a good time to all their friends. So it's kind of like this cool little symbiotic relationship where I say, hey, listen, have some fun, engage with the screen, take some pictures, have fun with your friends, great. And tell you what, all I'm going to take is just maybe a little bit of your screen time, so that way people will say, hey, I was at the show and I had a good time. So and then it's not just me promoting myself, it's the audience, which has a lot more weight.
And this would project on TV screens. You're talking about in like the venue that you're playing at?
TV screens, projectors, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
very cool.
That's the whole idea. So it's like the Jumbotron effect, right?
Yes.
If you see yourself on the Jumbotron, all of a sudden you're a celebrity, you see people actually having fun and having a good time. That's the same idea, but we're bringing it to different venues and smaller places where people can have the same experience.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear more. I'm excited to hear your new stuff.
Okay.
I'm excited. Are you doing like any shows coming up, or you're kind of still in the planning process? Okay,
October 13th at the Hideout. I start about 10:15.
Looper fans know that the Hideout is my favorite venue in Toronto. The first bar I ever went to. We've talked about it almost every episode in the last 6, because we did our first showcase there.
Sure.
And they're sadly closing, but they are reopening somewhere else soon. Which
I was there and I asked them, and they're like, oh, it's under wraps.
All under wraps. Even the staff are like, and this is a great thing that's cool. The staff have all been told, from what I've been told, the staff have been told they're all more than welcome to move to the new space. Like they're not restructuring
they're just
anything.
like literally
Everybody who's a part of the
moving.
team is staying a part of the team if they want.
And they have a
including all
great
the
staff.
musicians.
Everyone there is awesome.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, they run a great business there.
October 13th.
October 13th?
Nice. Well, I will be there. Hopefully you guys will be there as well. I'll probably be there as many nights as I can until Halloween.
Obviously.
And then after that, November 3rd is our showcase at the Cameron House in the back room. We're doing a really cool Femme Fatale showcase. We've had some amazing female folk, rock, pop, indie songwriters on the show. And so that's the next place that you can find me. And hopefully, if you're around, you can come check it out as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm really glad you came to chat today.
Thanks
this
for
was
having
really cool. We learned way more than... I learned so much about how you've gotten to where you are, and it's great because not only are you like a talented musician, but you're a very smart business person in this industry. So
it's a work in progress. We'll
cool,
see.
guys.
It's all
Please support
theories
him.
at this point.
No, but you're doing well. That's what I
thank
mean.
you.
It's all theories until they're proven right or wrong, right?
That's it.
Einstein had only theories.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. So I gotta say, would you grace us with a couple of tunes?
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to.
Fantastic. We're gonna be right back, guys.
You've been in a feedback loop.
How can you say that I'm not trying? If you could do it better, please don't sue. 'Cause I was never trying to get your buy-in. This is how it's gonna be. So watch this, you got this. You hear me take another antique. Won't feel there and done. That just give it time and maybe then you'll see. In the corner of the line, it's all I think about. In the corner of the mind, where anything's far away. In the corner of my mind, it's all I think about. In the corner of my mind, with all the things like today. How can you say that I am lying? What does it matter if it sounds to me? Hey Pegasus, you're just a high horse flying in. You must be watching too much MTV. So watch this, you got this. You hear me take another antique scene. A factor, the actors, my equations, my and reality. Oh, in the corner of my mind, it's all I think about. In the corner of my mind, where anything's far away. In the corner of my mind, it's all I think about. In the corner of my mind, with all the reasons flash away. My words have faded. I don't feel that scared at all. And I guess I made it. And I made it through the wall. My words have faded. I don't feel that scared at all. And I guess I made